Hello, everyone. Over the course of this presentation, we'll embark on a journey through the hills and hollers of Appalachian music to uncover the extraordinary contributions of three women who shaped this genre in profound ways. Jean Ritchie, Hazel Dickens, and Ola Belle Reed weren't just musicians. They were cultural preservationists, social activists, and artistic innovators whose work continues to resonate today. As we explore their stories, I invite you to consider how their music both reflected and transformed Appalachian identity. Appalachian music has been celebrated for its rich storytelling traditions and its roots in migration and cultural blending, as well as its raw expressions of struggle and resilience. But there's an important dimension that often gets overlooked: the vital role of women in shaping this tradition. While names like Bill Monroe and Doc Watson dominate the history books, women were there at every stage, preserving songs, innovating styles, and using music as a tool for social change. Today, we're going to correct that imbalance by focusing on three women whose voices echoed far beyond the mountains. Their stories matter because they show us how music isn't just entertainment, it's a living archive of cultural memory and a powerful vehicle for advocacy. Before we meet these remarkable women, let's ground ourselves in what makes Appalachian music unique. This tradition emerged from a remarkable cultural fusion: Scottish and Irish ballads meeting African rhythms and indigenous musical practices. The instruments tell the story: the fiddle from Europe, the banjo from Africa, and later the distinctive Appalachian dulcimer. The music carried themes of family, faith, labor struggles, and deep connections to place. But what's often missed is how women served as the keepers of these traditions. While men dominated public performances, it was often women who maintained the ballad traditions at home, teaching songs to children and preserving stories that might have otherwise been lost. This domestic music stewardship forms the foundation that our three subjects built upon in their groundbreaking careers. Our first pioneer, Jean Ritchie, was born in 1922 in Viper, Kentucky, the 10th of 14 children in a family where music was as essential as food. The Ritchie family was what folklorists call a singing family, a household where traditional songs were passed down as naturally as genetic traits. Young Jean absorbed hundreds of songs that trace back directly to the 17th century Britain, preserved with remarkable fide- oh my, fidelity in Appalachian hollows. But Jean was more than just a repository of tradition. She became its most eloquent ambassador. After earning a degree in social work, she made a pivotal decision to bring her family's music to wider audiences, carrying the dulcimer, an instrument then little known outside the mountains, onto national stages. This wasn't just a career choice, it was an act of cultural preservation at a time when Appalachian traditions were being diluted by radio and commercial music. Jean Ritchie's impact unfolded in multiple dimensions. As a performer, her 1952 album, singing the traditional songs of her Kentucky mountain family, introduced mainstream audiences to authentic Appalachian balladry. Songs like Barbary Ellen, which she learned from her mother, preserved melodies and lyrics essentially unchanged from their medieval origins. But Jean wasn't stuck in the past. She composed powerful new songs like Black Waters, a searing indictment of strip mining that showed how traditional music could address contemporary issues. Her scholarly work, including her Fulbright-funded ballad research in Britain, created important bridges between academic folklorists and traditional musicians, and her influence rippled through the folk revival, inspiring artists from Joan Baez to Bob Dylan. In many ways, Jean Ritchie set the template for how traditional artists could honor their roots while remaining vibrantly relevant. If Jean Ritchie represented the continuity of tradition, Hazel Dickens embodied its power to confront injustice. Born in 1935 in Mercer County, West Virginia, Hazel grew up in a coal mining family where music was both comfort and catharsis. Her journey reflects the Appalachian diaspora. She left for Baltimore as part of the great post-war migration, but carried her mountain identity with her. In the factories and union halls of Baltimore, Hazel found her voice as musician and activist. Teaming up with Alice Gerald, she formed one of bluegrass music's first all-female duos at the time when women were largely regulated to sing harmony or playing appropriate instruments like autoharp. Hazel's raw, uncompromising vocals and straight-to-the-bone lyrics challenged every stereotype about women in country music. Hazel Dickens' music was a weapon against oppression in all its forms. Her song Black Lung gave voice to miners dying from pneumoconiosis with lyrics that cut like a mining machine. It's a slow death in a West Virginia town. They'll Never Keep Us Down became an anthem for labor organizers. Working Girl Blues tackled gender discrimination with wit and fury. When Barbara Kopple featured Hazel's music in the documentary Harlan County, USA, it brought Appalachian labor struggles to national consciousness. What makes Hazel's work so remarkable is how she merged personal and political. Songs about failed relationships carried the same emotional authenticity as her Union songs. She proved that country music could be both deeply personal and fiercely political, paving the way for artists like Dolly Parton and Kathy Mattea. Our third pioneer, Ola Belle Reed, represents the creative synthesis at the heart of Appalachian music. Born in 1916 in North Carolina's Blue Ridge Mountains, Ola Belle grew up in a musical family that later moved to Pennsylvania as part of the Appalachian migration north. Her music blended old-time traditions with original compositions, sacred with secular, traditional with contemporary. At festivals like Galax Fiddlers Convention, Ola Belle held her own in all-male jam sessions. Her powerful voice and banjo playing commanded respect. But her greatest legacy may be known as a songwriter. She composed songs like High on a Mountain that sounded so timeless they were often mistaken for traditional folk songs. Ola Belle's music embodied what scholar Henry Glassy calls the beauty of the old ways and the strength of the people, a perfect description of her artistic vision. Ola Belle Reed's masterpiece, High on a Mountain, exemplifies why her work endures. The song opening line, High on a mountain, standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life have flown, captures the universal Appalachian experience of displacement and longing. But here's what's remarkable. Though it sounds ancient, Ola Belle wrote it in 1962. It became so beloved that many assumed it was a centuries-old ballad, the highest compliment for an Appalachian songwriter. Her impact was formally recognized when she received the National Heritage Fellowship from the NEA in 1986, essentially the Nobel Peace Prize of folk art. The Smithsonian's Folkways recordings preserved her music for future generations. And today, when artists like Gillian Welch or Tim O'Brien perform her songs, they're not just covering music. They're perpetuating a worldview. Ola Belle taught us that tradition isn't about freezing the past in amber, it's about speaking to the present in a voice that feels timeless. When we step back to compare these three women, three powerful themes emerge, like threads in a braided rug. First, rootedness in tradition. Jean Ritchie preserved ballads note for note. Hazel Dickens channeled the unvarnished sound of Cole Camp Church services. Ola Belle Reed's music carried the cadence of Appalachian preaching. Yet none were purists. They reshaped traditions to meet contemporary needs. Second, shattering gender barriers. In the 1950s, bluegrass festivals often had no women bathrooms because women weren't expected to perform. Hazel Dickens faced audiences who shout, "Go home and milk the cows." Gene Ritchie battled assumptions that dulcimer players were merely quaint. Their perseverance opened doors for generations. Third, music as activism. From Gene's Black Waters environmental protest to Hazel's They'll Never Keep Us Down labor anthem to Ola Bell's I've Endured feminine resilience, they proved Appalachian music could be a rally cry. These shared threads reveal how Appalachian women didn't just participate in culture, they redefined it. Now you might wonder, how do we recover these stories when they've been overlooked for so long? My approach blended three methodologies. 1. Historical archaeology. Scouring letters, concert programs, and even grocery lists, like Gene Ritchie's handwritten ballad collections in the Library of Congress, to piece together their daily lives. Hazel Dickens' Union meeting notes revealed how she tailored songs to specific labor struggles. 2. Musical forensics. Analyzing recordings for clues. For example, Ola Bell's High on a Mountain uses the Mixolydian mode, a medieval scale that survived in Appalachia, linking her to ancient ballad traditions. Hazel's asymmetrical phrasing, I ain't a-gonna be treated this way, mirrors the irregular rhythms of coal mining work. 3. Oral history. There are different musical artists, like Kathy Mattea, who described different ones of these women, like singing like no one's listening, because at first, they won't listen. This multidisciplinary approach doesn't just document their art, it resurrects their intentions. Appalachian music has always been what scholar Deborah Thompson called a weapon and a shelter. For these women, it was both. Gene Ritchie's The Ellen Don't Stop Here No More Anymore preserved the trauma of coal towns abandoned by railroads, a sonic monument to places literally erased from the map. Hazel Dickens turned individual pain into collective power. Her song, Black Lung, was so accurate that medical schools used it to teach symptom recognition. Ola Belle Reed's My Epitaph, I've Endured, became an anthem for LGBTQ Appalachians reclaiming their roots. Hazel's voice in some of her songs would break on Can't You See the Dust in My Lungs. Even though some might think that it is poor technique, it is deliberate, and it shows the aesthetic of struggle, making the body's pain musically visible. Today, their legacy lives in surprising places. The Highwomen's 2019 cover of High on a Mountain introduced Ola Belle to stadium crowds. During COVID, TikTok teens rediscovered Gene Ritchie's dulcimer tutorials, sparking a hashtag Appalachian Trad Talk trend. Hazel Dickens' They'll Never Keep Us Down was sung at Amazon Union rallies in 2022. Even Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter album nods to this lineage. The banjo on Texas Hold'em is played by Rhiannon Giddens, who cites all three women as influences. This isn't just nostalgia, it's a living tradition. As Gene Ritchie once said, the old songs aren't finished changing yet. If we listen closely, these women offer us 4 enduring lessons. 1. Cultural perseverance is radical. No, cultural preservation is radical. In a world obsessed with novelty, keeping traditions alive is an act of defiance. 2. Place matters. Their music roots us in specific landscapes, hollows, coal camps, migrant trails, challenging Appalachian stereotypes. 3. Women's labor is cultural labor. The unpaid work of teaching songs, organizing benefits, and mentoring artists builds movements. 4. Beauty and protest can coexist. A lullaby can critique capitalism. A gospel tune can demand gender equality. As we face today's crises, climate change, inequality, and many others, their example asks, how will we use our art to endure, resist, and remember? And then these are all the sources I used. Recommend looking at them if you want to learn any more. And that is it.